I have rarely seen people who do yoga have an optimal body composition.
There are people who say measure your food, put it on a weighing scale. I have never done that for one.
There are 4 hormones that come into play when you start eating right and exercising right.
My sheer love for this fit life that I live and food. I love food. I said, let's bring both of these together and help people around. That's how I started Kilobeaters. It was simple.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. Don't break a tear.
Yeah. No.
I know how hard it is. Yeah.
Hi, Malhar. We are back to get roasted again.
Yes.
By the audience.
I'm still recovering.
Muscle recovery
Yes. This time I pumped a little before sitting.
or sitting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Apparently I have no muscles.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said. So we're going over the first and the most the most commented comment was he needs to build muscle himself. That was one that a lot of people have said.
Yeah.
Iska to muscles hai hi nahi, bro. Bro, muscles nahi hai.
Bro, muscle nahi hai. Only muscle performance. Bas.
So there were a few people that said absolutely on point, but most of them said that we don't sport muscle and we shouldn't be talking about muscle. Why are they saying that to us? Don't they see our muscles?
Yeah, they don't see our muscles apparently. We're not bulky.
Yeah, we're not.
We're not gym
And
rats.
Yeah.
So,
Should we be flaunting ours in the next videos, or is that the mudda behind all of our videos?
Maybe a few videos later.
Okay. Sure.
Yes.
So what kind of muscles are we referring to in the video that went viral with 6 million people forwarding it, sharing it, talking about it?
Oh.
What are we referring
People
to?
are talking about visible muscles. So there's visible, there's invisible, there's fat which is visible, again invisible. So people don't understand, end of the day, it's a muscle to fat ratio. And at whatever weight category, so there are lower weight people, there are higher weight people. End of the day, sub 20% body fat is what you're aiming for. The rest of it is lean muscle.
Yeah.
So given that both of us, and I've met Abhishek, I remember when we met first time, it was just amazing to see a couple in today's day and age also who was so fit. You know, and I think both of you, if you take an average, you'll probably be at 15% body fat, which is incredible. And what is your regimen that you guys follow?
Wait, before we move into that, were you secretly intimidated by us?
No.
Okay, cool. We lead very simple lives. Nothing complicated about our exercise, about our eating. It's really, really simple. We work out 5-6 times a week. We, in fact, are very vain, both of us, compete with each other. Yeah, we eat simple food. We don't take out too much. Convenience is everything for us. We figure out what's nutritious, what's convenient, what's quickly available. Because me being an entrepreneur, I don't have all the time in the world to be cooking a big meal. While I'd love to, I'd rather spend that time with my significant better half. So, yeah, so that's how I keep it simple. What do you do? I've seen Kanchan and you climbing mountains recently. You guys did a trek?
Yeah, we do a lot of treks. And yeah, but she's also, again, people keep asking a mother of 2, 45-year-old, how are you so fit? Because she gyms. And we do have a significantly high protein intake. We have our shakes, we have our non-veg and eggs. And it's a very dumb process. I just get frustrated when thousands of people month on month ask me for a unique solution. So give me something which is unique. Exercise is very dumb. You have to just get up, get into a situation where you can lift certain amount of weights, do your yoga, do a little bit of cardio of your choice. It's really not so... You know, it doesn't require a very high IQ, an Einstein level IQ. If you see the fit people in this world, other than the professional athletes, who are, of course, God bless them, their talent, their top 1%, you have the Hollywood and Bollywood industry. Now, these guys live in a vain world where every milligram of fat is visible, measurable. But you see how they've been able to do it. They don't flex too much intelligence into it. They just bring in consistency and a very simple process. They eat less of a couple of nutrients and they up their workouts. It's really that simple. But when you meet the common man, he wants something highly complex, especially in the gym.
Yeah.
So what exactly to do in a gym? Really? Like there are machines there that have simplified it. You don't have to get creative with dumbbells and benches. Just go and do the machines. But no, everybody wants a signature. So what is your signature workout, both of you? What do you all do?
Yeah, so let's not talk about signature moves because I have many. And I often tell everyone that we're keeping a little box. The donations of copying my signature move goes into that box. So I've seen that happen in the gym quite a bit.
No harm, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's simple, right? You have a leg day, you have an upper body day, you have a full workout day, you have an HIIT day. It's so simple. It's. I mean, it just comes naturally to me after this many years, and to Abhishek as well. But yes, I have seen people complicate. In fact, I think machines complicate the workout a little as well, because you see all these funky machines in the gym. That's that's making people wonder, how do I use this now? And then you're flexing a new muscle.
Yeah, this one.
And then,
Yeah.
and then you're,
That
The
the
rest is
minute
history.
I'd always tell people, you go neck downwards into a gym. There is no work of any muscle above the neck in a gym. Because if you start flexing this one, how many reps, how many sets, you just push a muscle to fatigue, to a reasonable amount of physique, age appropriate, and you've done your job for the day. So I'll give you a simple example of a gym metric. You lift a dumbbell, let's say you take a 10 kg dumbbell and you do 10 reps of a bicep curl. You have done 10 into 10, which is 100 kgs. You do 3 sets with the left hand, 3 sets with the right hand. You have done 600 kgs. 15 minutes ago, before you entered gym, you were sitting in a cafe having coffee. Now you have entered the gym and done 600 kgs. You do 5 different exercises like this. In a matter of 30 minutes, you have gone from 0 to 3,000 kgs of lifting. You do that 3 days a week, you're doing 10,000 kgs a week. You do that for a whole year, you'll change your entire body morphology. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
I keep telling people, stop measuring reps, micro supersets. If you're just a normal guy who wants to get his strength up, do yoga on other days, do some bit of cardio, that's all you need. Measure your poundage, do a reasonable range which is appropriate for your age. Don't have to be He-Man and lift massive shoulder presses. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple. Little bench, little squat, and don't overdo the body weight exercises, because they will damage your joints after a certain rep range. You know, when you start crossing 30, 40 reps, push-ups, squats, you'll start damaging. And then you load it on top of that. So keep the reps minimal, increase the weight, progressive overload as it's called. It's really not difficult, but I think, these simplistic principles, people ask the wrong questions to their gym trainers.
Yeah. And invariably, I've seen a lot of people, going back to our walking video, I've seen so many people on the phone reading messages, walking on the treadmill aimlessly, nowhere to go.
People love distracting
Love it,
themselves.
yeah.
And to me, workouts are where you get insight.
Yeah.
So much insight. In every context of life, you get it during a workout.
Yeah.
Because it's what's called a flow activity. You know why they make temples on top of mountains?
No.
Because when you climb a mountain, your heart rate is above 140, 150. And medically speaking or psychologically speaking, you cannot be negative when you are above 150 heart rate. So when you climb up, you're in an optimistic, positive state. And that's where you get insight. And that's what the whole surrender thing came from. When you climb up, you surrender to God because suddenly you're not thinking negative. That was the logic. Gyms are just temples of the modern era. You go there, you raise your heart rate, you're suddenly so optimistic. You will rarely find a pessimist in a gym. Everyone's positive there.
Yeah.
No one's talking about existential purpose.
Yeah.
You're in tune with your body, you're lifting weight.
Yeah.
That's all it
Some
is,
of us are also headbanging in the gym.
Yeah,
I do
that's
that.
the best. Who, with
But,
Abhishek?
no, generally on my own. But also, I understand what you're saying, because I've noticed this strenuous climb to Tirupati.
Yeah.
You're literally thanking God for having reached up there. Because
That's part of it. You're
Yeah,
happy
that's
it's
part
over.
of it, yeah.
But secondly, you're in a surrender state.
Yeah.
You're not cross-questioning your existence. You're not worrying about, maid servants. You're not thinking about income. You're not thinking about anything. You're just there. For that 1 hour, you talk to anyone who goes to a gym. Yes, initially there is resistance, which is why I think they call it resistance training. Because that resistance phase for the first 1 month is like, what am I doing here kind of thing. But
Resist it.
Resist it. Yeah. And once you're done with it, then that mobile carrying phase stops. You start keeping the mobile in the bag.
Yeah.
And you're all about the flow. And
Yeah.
then it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And that's when you're starting to hit. Then the results come in subconsciously.
Yeah.
But again, I would say, why so much thought? Why so much thought is needed to get into a gym twice a week?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. And the yoga guys can blast me time immemorial. I mean, I don't know why they do it. They are such purists, that we do yoga. Yoga is everything. Yes, yoga has some phenomenal benefits. Number one, it is very de-stressing. It keeps your body so pliable that you just don't develop any kind of, stretching injuries. Third, your posture improves brilliantly. So I'm a big fan of yoga. I've done Iyengar yoga. I've even done some other forms of slightly softer yoga with more breathing. It's amazing. The calmness that you feel at the end of a yoga session can't be compared to even a gym session. Having said that, I have rarely seen people who do yoga have an optimal body composition because it's not sufficient stimulus for you to build muscle and burn fat. It's not sufficient. You have to lift a little bit of weights. You have to do a little more cardio on other days. That's a balanced routine. There's no need to be so monotheistic when it comes to exercise and so defensive. Nahin, I will do only yoga. I will do only gym. I will only walk. It's not necessary. Just accept that you need a broader training regimen and to get the best of all. And trust me, you go to a gym for 3 months, your yoga will also improve. Similarly, do yoga for 3 months, your gym recoveries will also improve. They all tie into each other.
Yeah.
Why the defense? I just feel people can be a little more open-ended. Don't you do all three?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And so do I.
Yeah.
Which is why we recover so much fast. And I'm someone who gets injured quite often. It has been following me since I was a child. But I recover very quickly because of the strength, stamina and flexibility investments that go in week on week on week.
Yeah. And also I've noticed when you do this consistently, you start understanding your body. Like I can tell when I'm about to injure myself.
Yeah.
I know exactly which nerve is about to pull, what is going wrong and what I did wrong. And of course I have my husband always pointing fingers at my form. But I can, and that's about knowing your body, understanding your body, right? And that applies to food as well. Again, we make it so complicated. There are people who say, measure your food, put it on a weighing scale. I have never done that for one. I understand my body. I know what I want to eat. I know when I'm hungry. And I can beat my cravings. I think that it all just falls in place when you're consistent.
When I think about diets, I think about enablers and I think about blockers. There are enablers in the food, which something like, let's say you start having a smoothie, you bring in a supplement. These are things that actually promote health in a way. Quickly, they're shortcuts. On the other side, there are blockers. Let's say you've got used to having a cappuccino twice a day, or you've got used to some high calorie snack at 5 o'clock. You know that's blocking your progress. The first step is always to identify the blockers. Any good dietitian will do that. She or he will tell you, these are the 20% that's causing 80% damage. The minute you get rid of those, the problem with people is they are obsessed with enablers and pros and cons of enablers. Smoothies are bad, protein shakes are this, they are inadequate. Let's talk about the blockers first. And I'm sure people like you who have sorted their life to have minimal blockers. You may eat out once a week. That's not a blocker. That's a celebratory meal. But day in and day out, if you're making a mistake and you've got like smoking, for example, we know it's a blocker to good health. Any educated person will tell you there are side effects of smoking. But then if you want to defend it and find data that suits you, that says only 30% of smokers get cancer, which means 70% don't. If that's the data you want to stand by, then that's your belief system, you know. But I just think unnecessary aggressive opinions on any topic, protein is bad, protein shakes are bad, ICMR said this, XYZ. The thinker thinks, Google proves.
Correct.
If you have thought it, you will find evidence to suit you. My suggestion, and this is something that I adopted 15 years ago, find people who are getting results, talk to them, implement some part of it in your life. If you get results, you know that thing is for you. If it's not suiting you, find something else. But don't waste your time trying to prove what that person said is right or wrong. It's a wasted life, And I think fitness influencing is a lot like that. People just want to spend their time disproving or writing nasty stuff on social media, which is not necessary. If you have solved what works for you, like I never tried to convince you, even to this date, of what I do. And neither have you tried to convince me. But we are both perfectly happy in our own spaces. I'm an endurance athlete, you're a strength athlete. And we both are 15-20% fat. It's a great way to live. You
do you.
You do you. Even in the diet. If you decide tomorrow to turn vegetarian, I know the first thing you will do is go sorting your macros subconsciously. Because I'm not going to deep fry broccoli and then say it's protein. That's insanity. So I think it need not be so complex.
Yeah. And I think convenience is the barb of modern era, right? I mean, it has to be convenient. You want your macros. You're not going to sit cooking up a meal. So
Yeah.
let's say it's a Saturday afternoon. You're sitting with your partner, and then you want to eat enough protein. I'll just order a mutton or a chicken from outside. I'm not going to order the ingredients and cook up a meal because that time is so precious for me to maybe chill in front of Netflix or spend quality time, right?
Yeah, or you might be studying also. You
Yeah.
might want to advance your career. You might want to take a side hustle, which
Yeah.
is the new thing now.
Yeah.
And everybody's working 2 jobs and acquiring a skill.
Yeah.
So men, women, everybody's equal. You know,
Yeah.
we are in the area of equality. There is no patriarchal stuff where there are women sitting at home now today just cooking full time.
Yeah.
That era is almost over.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, both genders must solve their own macro problem. The carb, protein, fat problem. If it's not coming, you are going to turn to the Zeptos, the Blinkits, the Zomatos, the Swiggies. Nothing wrong. They have healthy options on them.
Yeah.
My problem is not with that one healthy meal in a week. It's when you're starting to utilize these apps on a day-to-day basis, you need to really pay attention to what you're ordering, because just needing protein and ordering a mutton dish from outside with 3 times the oil that you would normally have put in at home is not fair to the body.
Yeah.
And it again gets you addicted to that taste cycle.
Yeah.
Then rich food. Like I'll tell you, I just went for a Himalayan trek, and I noticed when we all came back from the mountain, the first thing that everyone had on their face was, "Sir, can we not eat today in the food that is prepared, the resort food? Can we go out?" Because that addiction to rich food with the larger amount of oil, salt, and sugar,
Yeah.
it was so intuitive. It was even in me.
Yeah.
Because we had eaten that tent-based,
Yeah. Rajma
food.
chawal.
Rajma chawal combined with a very little oil, combined with just a few, and they would give you pickle for taste. They wouldn't cut it. The minute we came down, everyone was like, "Sir, aaj khana hai." I said, "Jao, kyo khana hai?" No Maggi wiggy. It was proper, rich,
You're
butter roti
salivating.
types.
Yeah.
I am. It's the butter roti and the butter chicken kind
Tandoori
of food.
chicken kind of food, yeah.
And trust me, when we ate that, when we went out, the satiety on everyone's face was, which brings me to the next argument. Have you ever said that I have eaten this, now I need to go exercise? So do you out-exercise a heavy meal?
I don't think you can.
You don't think so?
No. I think when I started out my fitness journey, I would get a little guilty about this whole, oh my God, I've overeaten, so I need to burn it out. I'm not in that space anymore. I know exactly, even if it is indulgence, there is balance. I know exactly how much to eat, because again, it comes down to understanding what your body is okay with, right? So my body has a repulsive reaction to sugar,
Yeah.
excess salt. So it's become that. I've moved into that phase because of my athletic performance phase, right? So I think that kind of has been key for me.
Yeah, I think that's where we when we talk to patients, we tell them just getting back to health
Yeah.
is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And most people I meet after 35, 40, they just want to lose 10 kgs and they think they have magically done their job. Losing 10% of fat or weight is not nirvana. You have to move from there to the zone of athletic performance. Choose your arena. It may be swimming, maybe yoga, maybe cycling, whatever it is, in terms of frequency, intensity, and time. This is called the FIT principle of exercise. So frequency, intensity, and time. You have to have certain depth, certain 3 to 4, 5 times a week, certain amount of speed or depth of that performance, and 60 minutes and above. Then you're talking exercise that will actually impact the body composition.
Yeah.
So I think it's very critical that people understand that, once my dad had told me, you can't dig 3-foot wells everywhere and expect to find water. You have to sit down in 1 or 2 places and dig 10 feet. Chances of hitting water are much higher. But people don't want to dig deep. They
Yeah.
want to just and they want to test the waters. Is there water here? But from 3 feet, you can't see whether there's water at 10 feet. So to be honest, I just wish we as Indians would not waste too much time trying to find out what is right and wrong before we step on that journey.
Yeah.
Just start doing it. In
Yeah.
about 6 months to a year, you'll know whether it works for you. That it works is beyond discussion.
Yeah.
Does it work for you?
Yeah.
So does a high protein, low carb diet work for you? Do it for 6 months and let's find out. Does a 300 gram carb, 100 gram protein work for you? Try that.
Yeah.
End of the day, it's all multiples of body weight.
Yeah.
End of the day. Your carb intake will be a multiplication of your body weight. Your protein will, and your fat will, and your fiber will. Everything is a multiple of body weight. So if you're not comfortable at 100 kgs, let's start calculating at 90. My favorite saying in the world of weight loss is eat for the weight you want to be.
How does that work?
Which means if you are 100 kgs, you will eat approximately 3000 calories a day. The minute you come to 90 kgs, your calorie requirement drops by 30 calories per kg per day. So now you're 10 kgs lighter, 2700 is your new number. Now suddenly you have come to even lower. 2500 is your number. Now the question is, have you trained your brain to eat 2500 calories? Or mentally, are you a 3000 calorie guy on a diet? But that meal correction of 500 calories has to be permanent.
Yeah.
Now, either you're cutting one roti per meal plus a little bit of calorie density, or you've just cut one meal. But that ability and that intuition to say, you know what, I was eating 500 calories more, that was keeping me at 100. Now I've lost 20 kgs. 600 calories is gone. Can you make that permanent correction? Or are you still a 100 kg guy who's compromising on a diet?
Yeah.
That's the sustainability piece.
Yeah.
And there I think people keep getting angry with us when we talk about our products. I saw a lot of rants last time.
Yeah, why are you selling your products? That was a question that we were asked a lot too.
You guys are just bending the truth because you want to talk about sell. Yeah, you want to move product. I read a book long back, I think it was by a guy called Mr. Bakchi, who said that he attended a webinar or he attended a offline conference where Bill Gates was the chief guest. And he said that although the conference was about the role of IT in the future, Bill Gates spent 1 hour only talking about, in his keynote speech, how Microsoft is going to change the world. Now, like a typical Indian founder, he came out disillusioned saying, he didn't teach me anything because we are value guys.
Yeah, of course.
But then he realized later, as a founder and a promoter, his job, Bill Gates, would be to talk about his company.
Yeah.
He's the greatest evangelist of what he's doing and what his team is doing. If he doesn't talk about what he's doing, how does he expect his employees to?
Yeah.
So if we are not going to be proud of what we are building and see its use case scenario among people whom we are reaching out to, then how do we expect people down the line to do that?
Yeah.
And it just makes us hypocritical that we believe that our product is not good enough to be talked about.
Yeah.
So I think people out there should understand that when people on social media come to promote something, they are not bending the truth to do it. They're just true to what they are building.
Yeah.
And if someone doesn't see value in it, you're not the customer.
Yeah.
It's okay. But there are people benefiting out there. And I don't see why the venom. Something doesn't work for you, let it go.
Yeah. And all of us, even if it means we're just building our social media platform, our profiles on social media, we're all selling something, aren't we? Every day,
sells.
all of us selling ourselves.
Everybody leaves home, creates value, somebody sells it, revenue is generated, people get jobs. It's a cycle of capitalism. What is so aberrant about it is something that I find largely hypocritical, and I myself am guilty of this. I've spent a lot of years building things that other people could use, but not sitting down and selling it.
Yeah.
Because we always believe selling is sort of someone else's problem.
Yeah.
But no longer, I have realized that you can get up and do it. And I mean, I don't want to make this a political sounding podcast, but our Prime Minister today, he stands up and sells every single day, whether he's selling what he does, whatever. The guy sells, man. And you can see how he's created a global brand out of this country just because he just gets up and sells, which is incredible. To me, that level of consistency where every day, 1 hour of your day is spent making sales. Is that a shameful thing?
Yeah.
If you're creating value, get out there and sell it.
Yeah. And we as founders will continue to do it as and when we can. Yeah. So Malhar, after our last reel, we've been asked a bunch of questions. Let's address those and let's help them out with answers. The one question that was asked a lot was what to eat as protein for a vegetarian. Share with us some examples because pulses don't suit me. It gives me bloating. Which is true, I think, for most of us. I mean,
you're the chef. Come on.
For me, for sure.
Let's assume you're vegetarian. What would you turn to?
So, I like whey. I like whey isolate. I think it's the cleanest form.
You jumped into supplements. You'll get more rage
That's
in the
okay.
comment section.
But I do, but I do
from
consume
a food
yes.
perspective.
From a food perspective, I would do a little dal because I know a small vati of dal will give me about 10 grams of protein. I would definitely do nuts. If I can, since I'm selling, I would do Kilobeaters for sure.
There you go.
Gives me enough protein.
Yeah.
And paneer, I love paneer. I don't like soy. Again, it doesn't suit me at all. Anything in the legume, pulse doesn't suit me. Maybe because of the enzymes present. I mean, a lot of people say soak it for 3 nights and all of that, but it just never worked for me.
So maybe a little curd also, if at all.
Maybe
so
a little
dairy
yogurt.
would end up being a little part of your consumption
Fermented
daily.
yogurt. Yeah, fermented dairy, yeah. Not dairy.
So in general, you'll have dal, let's say breakfast, a dal. Let's say, how do you get protein in 3 meals of a day? As they say, at least 20-25% of your meal should be protein. That's how you get 20-20-20 and maybe some supplemental. How do you get that? It's hard. So if you're not having eggs, that would be 10 grams.
Yeah.
If you're not having chicken, that would be 20-30 grams. So let's go back to the veg thing.
Yeah.
I know it's tough,
Yeah.
but how do we do it?
Yep.
Make a 50-gram diet for a vegetarian.
Breakfast is Kilobeaters. That sorts you out with 20-25 grams of protein. Lunch would be dal, paneer, maybe a little rice even, maybe a little quinoa as well. I like quinoa as a complex carb source. Dinner, my meals are very boring. Like I keep them the same. Dinner again would be quinoa, dal, a little sabji, yogurt, and paneer for sure because I need my protein with
That's
every
a
meal.
lot of paneer. You know,
Yeah, but I train intense.
Yeah, but again, see, there's the defense. End of the day, paneer is high cholesterol. 1 liter of milk barely makes 250 grams of paneer. So you're having a lot of, it's the forest for the trees. There's a lot of calorie and a lot of fat coming in, piggybacking on a very little bit of protein. Dairy is like that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong, but I think depending on paneer, day in and day out.
What are your
going to
vegetarian
work.
choices?
I would have to get in soya if I had to because I don't see any other way. I really would struggle with it. Then I would get the whole chickpea, that whole argument. The vegans are very big and I would genuinely get in a smoothie or two. So a smoothie which is a protein-based smoothie, something like I'll give you an example. My dad in COVID, he was struggling for protein and he's turned vegetarian after many years. So he started making this incredible whey protein ice cream shake which he has at night. And what he would do is he would add 1 scoop of protein, he would add almond milk, he would add a little coconut oil, a few nuts and seeds and put this all in the freezer in the morning. At night, that craving would come at 9:30, 10 looking at the TV. He would go and take that ice cream out. It's a good 50-60 ml of ice cream and he would sit and eat it. Now, when we did the constitution of that, it's nearly 30 grams of protein with practically 17 odd calories from sugar, which is what that little almond milk contains. Hardly anything, and calorie not very dense carb. So, and a wonderful thing, and he would just warm it a little bit sometimes, then he would get good sleep also. So it's a good way to, again, I would struggle given the amount we train to get 50-80 grams of protein. I would struggle on a vegetarian diet.
Yeah.
And upping the dal is not a solution because dal is 1:5 protein per carb. So if you're having 100 grams of dal, is 20 grams of protein and a hell of a lot of other stuff. Although the carb may be just 50%, the rest of it there's fiber and a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
But again, just upping it all the time,
Yeah.
carb bill starts rising. So nuts and seeds would be huge. Almonds and but again, how much of it can you have?
Yeah. Again, a lot of fat when you're consuming that. Yeah.
There's a lot of indirect calorie intake in the vegetarian world,
Yeah.
So the data is out there. End of the day, you have to find 50 to 75 grams. That's the sweet spot for me, whether I'm excising or not excising. Otherwise, the satiety just not going to come.
That's when the cravings kick in, right? You've not had enough protein.
Yeah, you're not.
I agree.
enough.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move to the next question. Not question, actually. It's more a statement that has been made to you and I. About how don't talk about the importance of having muscles when you don't have any is one.
Ouch.
Yeah. And second also was walking doesn't eat or burn the muscles away. Rest is accurate. So I think let's take both of these questions together. One is that we don't have muscles, which has been
clearly should have worn sleeveless. I think.
yeah, we should the next time.
Yeah.
And the second was about how walking doesn't eat or burn muscles, and rest is accurate.
Yeah. I mean, walking is not bad. Like I tell all the patients I meet, also walk. Nothing wrong with it. It's a great form of cardio. Again, walking like yoga is fantastic for de-stressing. A lot of people in the morning just walk away their stresses or at late night. So no harm with it, but there is a point of diminishing return there. You stop at 30, 45 minutes, it's fine. You do your 10,000 steps, it's fine. But beyond that, upper body mobilization, your arms, your core, your upper back, it needs a little bit of attention. So, while a lot of people reacted negatively to that comment, what I'm saying is also walk. Walk meets your cardio requirement, but from the strength perspective, which is by far the number one component as you get older. I think it's very irresponsible to sacrifice strength, even 15 minutes of strength a day, by doing resistance bands, keeping some dumbbells at home, maybe ankle weights, climbing stairs with some weight on your back. It's good enough to start with, and you need progression. Otherwise, after a while, it gets boring. But on the other side, just walking ain't gonna cut it. And then you'll get hungry, your blood sugar dips after a long walk, you will go back and eat again. So calories in, calories out, which is the CICO. You will see a concept called a walker's belly. When you go to any park in town and you see the walkers who have been walking for years, their posture is very poor. They literally fall over themselves for lack of a stable core. So they're falling over themselves when they walk that way. They're literally, unstable as a physique. And secondly, their upper bodies are very fat heavy. So for men, fat is typically in the upper half. For women, it's in the lower half. It's gynecological. Now, when you see men with larger bellies, your center of gravity shifts in front. So you keep falling over yourself. Now, to compensate this, your back has to keep flexing you back. And this is what happens. You do 10,000 steps like that. Nothing wrong with the exercise. And I think another problem that people raged at both of us for not having muscles. My suggestion is, fall in love with the message, don't shoot the messengers. And we are a country that loves messengers. We don't pay attention to the message. So I think it's very important that what we are saying is more important than who's saying it and all that, because we know what we're talking about. Been in this industry for a long time. So these are learnings that have filtered over years. Like, what has been your core learning over the last 10, 15 years of exercising, eating right? What's been your evolution?
It's been a gradual habit for me, and the consistency is that brought about the change for me. I would always work out in spurts and, eat right in spurts as a child. As a child, I remember my father waking me up at 5 o'clock in the morning and pushing me to the gym, and me hating PT classes. These dirty physical training classes where you're putting your hands up and running around. Never liked any of those. But I think vanity kicks in after a point in your teen.
Fair enough.
And you slowly then focus on the way you look, the way you feel, and then of course, there's a fair bit of vanity even today, given that both my husband and I are like that. But yeah, it's that consistent, the feeling that you get when you're doing stuff right? Whether it's eating clean or whether it's exercising regularly. That habit that has formed over the years is what I absolutely love today in terms of where I am.
I think it's been very revelatory for yourself also. You found who you are. You found the conviction to stand by it. Because this is a passion play, of course, for you. If it was money, you would have quit a long time ago. So clearly it's, then that intensity comes from the workout that you do and the effect it has. And, from my perspective, coming from the technical side, we look at the mind and the happiness hormones that kick into play when you start. The word consistent is the most important word. So there are 4 hormones that come into play when you start eating right and exercising right. So the first one is always dopamine. You think of a goal, you're visualizing it, your eyes are, glazed. You're like, wow, you've seen someone running a marathon. You're like, I want to do that. And you set a goal. You haven't done anything yet, but the very concept that you can do that, you're already in a dopamine state. You're like, it's like a pleasure feeling. You can feel yourself there, goosebumps and all. Now, when you start doing it, you get a training plan, you start actually showing up at the gym, you start running. At that stage, the endorphin starts to kick in. So you start to sweat. The first 20, 30 minutes of a workout. And that high lasts about 5-6 hours. And you know from experience that what a workout does, no drug in the world can do.
Yeah.
So for 5-6 hours, you're in a buzz. And slowly you start getting used to that. But then you work out for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, serotonin comes into play, which is your essential happiness hormone. So while dopamine is your excitement, endorphin is your pleasure, but what really gives you sort of antidepressant effect is the serotonin, where you're now in a state of wellness. Insults don't stick to you. Somebody questions your way of life, you're like, okay, cool, you don't like it, I can live with that. So you become more insensitive to, that stuff. But after this, what I have found when you do it for a few months is when the oxytocin comes in, the self-love, which is, you know what, I've loved who I've become. And you start standing by your choices, not because they are right or wrong, because you start falling in love with who you are for following that. And then you stop asking stupid questions like, is protein, is carbs? That doesn't matter. Because you have started gravitating to authentic choices that you know are universally just good for you. And coming back to the last point is, what I read in a recent book, which is called, I think, Same as Ever. The guy who wrote Psychology of Money is written. He says, certain things don't change. Like human beings don't crave accuracy. Exactly how much should I do? That's not what they want. They crave certainty, which means, am I on the right path? They just want to know, am I doing the right thing? They crave certainty. How much of the right thing will come to later? He'll figure it out for himself. So I think for us as professionals, it's very important that we just spread the message that people should somewhere shift from their inertia of just judgment all day to a little bit of action, to finally being clear on what works for them. Because to me, you have found what works for you. I have found what works for me. So we're just here to help people find others. And yes, hopefully sell some of our products as well, which I don't think is a crime.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming back to Kilobeaters, and when I think about why I started Kilobeaters, it was my sheer love for this fit life that I live, and food. I love food. I said, let's bring both of these together and help people around. That's how I started Kilobeaters. It was simple. So so I live my passion every day. I'm one of those fortunate people. But yeah, exactly what you said, right? I mean,
it's hard.
It's hard.
Don't break a tear.
Yeah. No.
I know how hard it is. Yeah. My third startup, so I know how hard it is. It hurts. Yeah. But end of the day, I think people have to find their own athletic, dietary, spiritual and professional identities, which in a way are the passion plays. They are just contexts for you to get up every day and try to get better in some context. So as a father, as a parent, as a brother, you just want to get better in that role. Similarly, whatever profession you're doing as an entrepreneur, you want to get more efficient, get more productive, whatever. In a spiritual domain, you want to go deeper. But in a physical perspective, there's no goal. It's always, I want to be normal again. I've put on 20 kgs, I want to lose 20 kgs. You can't just be normalizing yourself all the time. You have to somewhere get into a performance mindset. And that performance mindset only happens when you have sorted basics. Basics are your strength, stamina, flexibility, your carbs, proteins, fats, and your micronutrients. Really, these 7 things aren't rocket science. It's just building blocks of what you need to sort and move on with your life. I like what, there's that Forrest Gump movie, right? And I love what he says in that movie. He says when he gets a check for XYZ $1 million for Apple stock, he just says, oh, you're very rich. And all he says standing there is one less thing to worry about.
I sorted this out.
I love that concept where when you've got your health in place, your fat percent's fine, you're fully functional as a human being physically, it's one less thing to worry about.
Absolutely.
That it requires a little servicing on a weekly basis, fine, we'll do that. But I don't see why there's so much kolavari, borrowing a word. But
around it, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Any more questions that we need to that have been raised?
There are. Oh yeah, there was some accusations about your mom and dad, about your parents, so to say.
What was the comment?
Yeah, so someone said they are flying around somewhere because they have money, not because they have muscles. Hold on, there's one more. Yeah. So yeah, that. Oh yeah, someone else says your parents are rich. More than muscles, they have money.
Absolutely.
Same thing, yeah?
Yeah. when I read comments like that, it's something fascinating. You know, when we read about Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
they say that he made 90% of his net worth in the last 10 years of his life. So, I mean, I'll use the word only in his context, but they say he was worth only 3 billion till he was, say, 80, and now he's some 85 billion. So, that compounding effect has occurred in the last 10 years. It's same thing with my parents. For large part of their life, they were paying EMIs, managing baseline existence because the economy in India wasn't what it is
Yeah.
today. You couldn't buy a flat for 10 lakhs and have it become 1 crore.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. But they have lived long enough that their assets have permitted them this lifestyle.
Yeah.
But where did that ability to live long enough come from? It came from being very responsible with giving up the right thing at the right age. I've talked to at least 150-year-old couples in the last 3 months. And it is insane to see how many of them have money, but they don't have health.
Yeah.
And then they start questioning the wealth itself.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, you have money, but we can't buy back the health. So what was the purpose?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start getting the health back then.
Yeah.
And getting the health back starts with giving up 2 or 3 blockers. Yeah, come on. You can't drink like a teenager. You can't smoke anymore.
Yeah.
You can't eat deep saturated fat. You know that. These are not,
Yeah.
something which is rare. But
Yeah.
after some point, just grow up and start acting your age and prepare for the next 25 years. So if you have to shift to a conservative diet, whether be it keto, vegan, some parts of Kilobeaters, construct it which is convenient,
Yeah.
logistically convenient, and just
And
know,
nutritious.
and nutritious, and your next 25 years will go in optimism.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll always be pessimistic that something is going to happen.
Yeah.
So you're living on the edge of your seat. I'll have to go to a doctor, and you're always in the vicinity of hospitals. And we live in an era of paranoia. There are enough people scaring you.
Yeah.
So I think it's not necessary. Just get these 7 building blocks in place. And
Yeah.
one thing I really wish that people would do is construct a team around you. You have to have a multidisciplinary approach. Your doctor is one part of the team. Your exercise expert is one part of the team. Your dietitian is one part of the team. You may have a performance psychologist. You may have a therapeutic psychologist. You may have a business coach. These are all people who are around, and they are available at a fraction of your net worth. There are spiritual organizations. I think people should just get out of their comfort zone and connect with these people. Build an army around you so that you are insulated from your own negativity. Otherwise, that negativity, like a wave, will just seep in and kind of fill up the room with that. If you can use these people to teach you how to fish rather than just buying a fish every time, I think it makes a lot of difference. I have done that, say, 4-5 years back. I realized I can use my resources to have people financially incentivized in
To
keeping
help
me
you,
high performing. There's nothing wrong.
But you have money. They all just said.
Frankly, money, a lot of people in India have money. They just don't know what to do with it. Or
Yeah.
they are worried they have to justify,
Yeah.
how they, and I think 40 or so is where you stop justifying. Till 40, you're always climbing the hill. Then you realize that, look, it's time to get down into high performance. Otherwise, you're always stuck bottom fishing, and it's very frustrating.
Let's clarify. I wouldn't know what 40 feels like. But also, Malhar, I notice another perpetual problem with our generation or with the teens today is that even beyond a certain age, once you cross 25, 30,
Yeah.
you're still eating the way you ate when you were 13.
Yeah.
And your body is not as forgiving anymore. Your metabolism has changed. Everything's changed. So, I mean, that again, self-control, understanding.
Entitlement.
Yeah.
It's coming from entitlement. Ki I will eat because we are dopamine addicts, And now the disposable income is there. So you're like, I can afford this. Really? You can afford it financially. Can you afford it physically? And I think I had done a reel some time ago where I showed that the grandparents get diabetic at 60. The parents are getting there at 40. Now, anyone can do a regression there and say where the next generation is going to get. So, it's coming from a 20-year period of incessant overnutrition, which is malnourishment, the term. We have gone from malnourishment to mal in a matter of 20 years. 2000 to 2020 is where India really went up. And our calorie intakes went from 14 to 1600 per day per person to 2200. And that 600 jump that has occurred is primarily come from junk. Which it's not that you're suddenly eating more rice dal or sabji. You're just eating more junk. It's fitted in somewhere.
Yeah.
And the US is at 3,400. That's where we are going. Because if you see the next generation, they are much taller, stronger and bigger than us. you see their heights. Many of them are 5'11", 6 feet. Whereas at our time, the average height seemed to be 5'8", 5'6".
Yeah.
There's a sudden increase, and this has come because of overnutrition. We have the food now, a protein richer diet, which is what the Western countries have. They aren't healthier for it though. 40% of their countries are diabetic or overweight, obese. So if we are not careful, we're going to get there too. And it's coming from entitlement. The wisdom isn't there. See, few people are wise, like you and Abhishek have taken certain steps. We have taken certain steps. We practically have oil-free cooking in our house. Practically. But I don't see most people do that. They use food as an indicator of
Comfort also.
and wealth.
Yeah.
And coping. When
Yeah.
relationships go bad,
Yeah.
businesses go bad, investments go bad, they turn to food as a...
Yeah.
I think you should turn to exercise.
Yeah.
It's a far better de-stressing tool than anything else on this planet.
Yeah.
But you run a marathon, they say you discover everything about yourself in 42. And I did. You discover everything about you. Like Oprah Winfrey had once said that. The first time she ran a marathon, she was like, wow. It is like that. Running is therapeutic, it's intuitive, it's insightful. It's like meditation, but it also has some benefits for the body. I just don't understand why people complicate it so much.
Yeah.
But what are some of the other questions that
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah. So, Malhar, we often get asked, and we've anyway been accused of selling our products, so let's just do it properly. We've made Kilobeaters products with a few people in mind, right? When we started curating the products and designing the products and formulating the products, we had a few things in mind. So for me, the first thing that played on my mind when I started with Kilobeaters products was convenience.
Yeah.
How easy is it for somebody to snip a clean bar or a clean packet of breakfast and put it in your yogurt or whatever and eat in the morning? That was one part of it. The second is I also wanted to cater to the 40-year-olds and above who are not getting enough protein or are bored of eating or, having a protein shake, right? You've always told us you've always focused on maintaining blood sugar spike because that's where you come from, right?
Glycemic index perspective. So I found that if there's protein with the carb, not only does it slow the absorption, but it leads to overall less consumption of the carb. Satiety is higher. So that was one of our aims. And I found a lot of feedback from people saying their sugars spiked significantly less, and yet they were able to get enough protein, which doesn't happen in a dal rice usually. That's the substitute. But that was one. And for me, senior citizens is the largest category. Their dental health is not good enough to permit them to eat that level of protein, from the non-vegetarian, or even eat that many nuts and seeds. So I found that they just start eating more and more carbohydrate, which is why the whole diabetic revolution after 60 starts setting in. But through a lot of our morning breakfast products, I have found that the 20 grams, just adding hot water, is a very convenient tool. So that category, the active or the aspirationally active, the one who's not yet full-fledged into workouts, but trying to get there, who's what I call from obesity management is called starving the fat, yet feeding the muscle. So when you eat a carb-fat combination, you are essentially feeding your fat. When you eat a protein-carb combination, you are in a way feeding the muscle. Because that's glycogen for performance. So end of the day, this delicate shift in dietetics from carb fat to, and not even protein fat, which is too much paneer again, the whole keto side. Essentially, if you just keep curbing the carb, the muscle gets starved. So you want a neutral carb diet. Of course, there is carb restriction. It's not rocket science. But what we have been able to do is that cater to an aspirationally active and an active. Because an active person, let's say you or me, we comfortably burn 800 to 1,000 calories a day in our workouts. We do need at least 40-50 grams of carbs more, or protein more than the others do. Where the hell do we get those? Do we keep chugging 3 protein shakes a day? And inherently, there's no satisfaction in that.
Because you're not eating anything.
You're not eating anything. And I think you need to eat, you need to chew. And Indians are very big on the crunch element. In our foods, which is why we add certain namkeens into our food. We like the crunch with our rice dal, right? So that's where I feel I have found a lot of use of our products. It starts out the morning only with the crunch, and even the nuts namkeen, I've added it to my rice dal sometimes. Gives the crunch element. So trying to fix different needs of our demographic.
Yeah. And we're large on taste as well, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean,
Of course.
I think everyone is. Some of us just, I mean, I could eat a piece of meat that's not very tasty and
Yeah.
be okay with it, but yeah.
There's a thing called the bliss point, in the sugar world, where companies sit down and put just enough of that ingredient to give you the
Mental bliss?
Bliss, yeah. There has to be the dopamine. And I found that our products, because of the high on taste, nutrition is one part, protein, macros, but that taste element, and some of times like in one of the products, it comes from spice.
Yeah.
That little bit of, when you chew that little spice, you get that,
Yeah.
wow. So
Yeah.
I find that we have been able to do that to a large extent, mimic what comes from otherwise foods that have been made tasty using salt, sugar, and oil.
Yeah.
If that's the only way to make food tasty, then you know what that's going to lead to.
Yeah.
So I think we've been able to replicate that to a large extent, give the protein in it, keep the carbs limited, and the profiling I think is really good.
Yeah.
So I think for each of the categories, and one of the big categories that I have been prescribing a lot is children, school-going children, because there's an obesity revolution now. At our time, there was one kid who was genetically obese in the class. Now 40% of classrooms are filled with comfortably 28, 32, 35 BMI kids, and it's insane. And we are still overfeeding them. I find that when they carry our fix, for example, which is a protein bar, as a 4 o'clock snack before they go for a tuition class, they have it in their bags. Like my daughters always have these in their bag. Things like that. Somewhere where there's satiety, so they don't walk down and buy food off
Yeah.
the street. Because they will, because now they all have payment apps on their phone.
Yeah.
So I think these small things, if we just pay a little attention to detail,
Yeah.
I think these are use cases where the teenager who's in college or going, the late adolescent, the 25-year-old new executive, the 35-year-old who's now starting to see that he's become overweight, he wants to reduce fat, go on a diet. These are very convenient foods to fit in. I think.
Or
that's
you
where-
and me who always want to flaunt our
that's
washboard abs.
With muscles we don't have.
Yeah, that is true.
With muscles we don't have. So,
But yeah.
no, I think it's good. Let's hope we are able to make a dent in the universe.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr.
Thank you.
Malhar.
Yes.